Hey all, Phoneybeetlemaniacxs here, and once again. We're going to deal with Godless Engineer and his videos. Now he's made about four, which I'm going to tackle. Now I'm going to try and move backwards. I'm going to tackle with videos about Tacitus first, and then move about Josephus, because Josephus is very in depth, and I need to go into it a lot of detail. So let's talk about Tacitus first. He says that his arguments are, and I want you to pass on the logic here, that is based upon what Christians believed at the time. No, it isn't. You do know that Pontius Pilate was well known to be procurator of Rome at the time, and it'd be pretty easy for him to discover whether Jesus died or not. If he wanted to discuss what Christians actually believed, he would have talked about the resurrection. He would have talked about the virgin birth. He would have talked about miracles. But no, he decided to talk about the actual man who started Christianity. That sort of baffles and destroys your argument there. He was talking about a specific person who lived at a specific time. He's not talking about the miracles. He's not talking about what Christians believe. He's talking about a specific person who lived. That destroys your theory right off the bat. If you wanted to talk about what Christians believed, he would have said that. He could have talked about what Christians actually believed. All he talked about is that Jesus was killed under the reign of the Emperor Tiberius. He was killed while Pontius Pilate was procurator of Rome. And he bred the first Christians in the world. Now, already, Mr. Godless Engineer gets that wrong. But again, that's minor. That's minor. Because, again, he's raining on Richard Carrier, and we know where that will get you. Now, he gets even worse by saying, oh, it's an interpolation. No, it isn't. We know this because we've seen numerous people talk about it. Because, actually, we saw Origen talk about it. I do apologise. Justin Martyr talk about it. Because one of the things that Tacitus does do in his work is that he misspells the word Christian. He spells it Christiens, which in Latin means cool or good. And Justin Martin says, oh, you call us cool and good, but you want to kill us. Why are you doing that? It was an aside. He had no need to do that. But again, you see, things like this do not agree with the facts that these people want. People like Richard Carrier want to present Mr. Godless Engineer, which is something that I'm very worried. Someone who talks about what early Christian fathers do and do not do, you'd think you'd actually look into this a bit more and just find out why Richard Carrier is full of shit. But we'll get into Josephus, because that's the main bit. That was just the appetizer. This is the main course, because these videos are wrong on a factual level. So let's talk about factual wrongness. First of all, he talks about brevity. How brevity is one of the proofs that he gives for the fact that this is a forgery. But brevity does not denote falseness. It denotes maybe it's something that the person's familiar with, or famous for, or a notable achievement. And it is used in English today as such. So again, your argument for brevity doesn't really work when it's used in language today. You'd only have a good point if it wasn't used in Latin, and it was sometimes by people, as an aside. Then his argument is grammatically. He says, well, grammatically it doesn't make sense because the sentences between the one where he talks about Pontius Pilate and the Roman Jews and then being spread to being quashed by the Romans, it fits too well. The thing doesn't fit too well. Here's the problem. Well, here's the major problem, and this is what is the problem. That's how language works today. We do it all the time. When we reference somebody who is of note, we talk about what they're famous for. Let me give you an example. Leonardo DiCaprio, as I know that's going to be a transatlantic that people will know about. Let's say I want to talk about that he's been nominated for an Oscar. I'd say something like Leonardo DiCaprio, who is famous for Avatar, Titanic, and The Wolf of Wall Street, got nominated for the Oscar today. That's how English language works today. So you're telling me that's not how it could have worked back then? Because he's talking about Pontius Pilate. And you said, oh, why would he talk about Jesus when he was talking about Pontius Pilate? Because, Mr. Godless Engineer, Pontius Pilate is very famous for killing Jesus. He was famous for it back then, he's famous for it now. Actually, I think that's more reason that most people know who he is that he's pretty much famous for killing Jesus. Now, it gets worse. Well, it doesn't get worse. It gets a lot worse, actually. Because then he goes into, well, early church fathers didn't talk about it when they did. Origen talks about it in his work, in his correspondence with Celsus. He discusses how we can use antiquities as proof that Jesus actually existed as a historical person. But again, this does not fit into the narrative that Richard Carey and David Fitzgerald, and as such, Godless Engineer was to present, because they don't care about the truth. They care about Jesus not existing. Which again is not the truth that as we understand it in history, but again, they want to present it as another thing. So, how do we know this? Well, Origen talked about it. I'll provide a link down below where somebody did this, the work for him. You see, because I actually looked it up because I was pretty sure that Origen did talk about it. Now he then goes into poisoning to do two fallacies. He does an argument for silence, where because no early church fathers apart from Origen and Eusebius didn't talk about it, therefore it didn't exist. Which is baloney. Did they have a reason to talk about it? Was there a good reason for them to talk about it? Probably not. If they were talking to somebody who was arguing against the argument of Jesus and they didn't bring it up, you'd have a legitimate argument, but those early church fathers really didn't. But Origen did, so when it was relevant. But then he starts poisoning the well. He starts talking about Eusebius, the Bishop of Pulley, and how dishonest he was. Now, I'm not a betting man, as I'm a Quaker, but he started to talk about, this is, now, he was more or less insinuated that Eusebius forged it, which is untrue, he didn't. Now, some people in the mysticist like to do a conspiracy theory about that Origen forged it. Yeah. So this theory bounces around when you point these sort of things out. It's the first person to talk about it. It was the first person to forge it, apparently. Never mind that the argument actually goes that Josephine scholars, people who actually know about Joseph's works more than I do. I'm going to suggest more than you do, and more than Richard Carey and David Fitzgerald do. Actually, say it's very in keeping with his work. They said that the probably has been changed to make it more positive because he was against messianic claims, which is something you did get right. But again, the words that we do know some of the words existed. Now the thing is that anybody that will start saying, "Oh no, that's not the case," But again, where's the proof? Where's the proof that it was forged? I want to see it. And the proof is, well, we don't have an early copy where it's maybe not altered. Well, we know enough about it that we know what words of his results, and go to a Josephine scholar and ask them. Don't go to David Fitzgerald and Rich Carey. They know fuck all about Josephus. Then we go into the quote about James, who is the brother of Christ. of the Christus. And his argument is that Christus was a title, which it was. It meant the anointed one. And he says, well, he wouldn't use that term in reference to Jesus, which is baloney, because Christus just means anointed one. It's actually given to rabbis or teachers of the time. And see, that's what Jesus was supposed to be. What the term you're actually looking for is the Messiah, which means the Messiah. And that would be more used. Now, the Christus became more led to Jesus Christ because Jesus Christus is just how it came about, saying he was an anointed one because he was a teacher and the father of the Jewish people. So, the thing is that he starts talking about James. Now, what he doesn't understand is that James is a Christian name, because there's no name, as far as I know, in Jewish that is similar to James. James's name in Jewish was not James, it was something different. And the fact that he was the brother of Christ. And we do know from the Bible that Jesus had a brother named James. And that's the reason why Christians use it. Now, he then says, oh, well, Richard Carrier says it's an interpolation. Well, what do people who actually know about Josephus say about that? They say that it is representative of his work and was not an interpolation by Christians later. And that it has remained unaltered. Now, these are 4 parts that again, he talks about. Now, he doesn't seem to understand that Richard Carrier and David Fitzgerald are not people you should take seriously. They really aren't. But, and more than that, it's quite funny that he's calling Christians to be like, say that, Jesus Christ probably didn't exist, when that's not what historians say. They say the actual opposite. So you're going off 2 people who fallaciously don't believe in Jesus. One of whom isn't a historian at all, he's a journalist, and one of whom is not really a peer-reviewed historian, and just makes his money and off his blogs and the books he sells. I don't know. Anyway, Godless Engineer, if you want a response, please, I'll be looking forward to it. And it is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, see, 4 G's make a true, out.